Very good morning, students. Today I am there with you with a very important, but for many of my students, it is bit difficult to understand. But mind it, there is nothing as such which is difficult. It is just how do you take it, what is your understanding about it. So I'm going to take today one topic written by Roland Barthes, which is your topic in the syllabus from work to text. Before I begin to discuss this essay, let us know something about Roland Barthes. फिर धीरे धीरे प्यार को बढ़ाना है, फिर तो हद से गुजर जाना है. पहले थोड़ा primary concept we should understand. What exactly is this? So, my dear friends, Roland Barthes, as you know, was born in 1915 and died in 1980. Just 3 years after he published this very famous essay in the year 1977 from work to text. So, as you know, that he is a French literary theorist, philosopher, linguist, critic, and semiotician. And he studied classical letters, grammar, philology, and Greek tragedy at Sorbonne. And he was first a structuralist and Marxist, and then later he transformed himself into a post-structuralist. And he advocated about intertextuality, which is very important to know what exactly is this intertextuality, because on this simple concept, this total essay is the expansion of this small concept known as intertextuality, which I will definitely delve before I go into the essay. Now, my dear friends, you know that post-structuralism is an era which began in the 1960s and 70s, where four prominent figures pioneered it. They were, of course, Jacques Derrida. You can see on a screen here. Jacques Derrida, Julia Kristeva, Jacques Lacan, and Michel Foucault. So these four personalities have definitely influenced your Roland Barthes also. Now, after that, before I delve into the essay from work to text, you should know two things. One thing very importantly. One was the intertextuality, which I'll explain further. Just hold your patience. I would now discuss, according to Roland Barthes, there are only two types of readers. And I won't take you to the essays of Francis Bacon, who talked about what are the different kinds of books. But according to Roland Barthes, there are two types of readers. First type of reader is, according to Roland Barthes, is consumers. And second type of readers are the writers of the text. Second type of the readers are not readers, but they are the writers of the text. अभी समझ में नहीं आएगा, आ जाएगा अभी. बस ये सब आप आंसर्स के लिए इसको अभी लिखते जाओ. So first type of reader is the consumer. These readers are those kind of readers who read the work for a stable meaning. Suppose I read this book. If I am a consumer type of reader, I would go for the stable meaning in it. I will start to derive I will start to pinpoint the synopsis of the ideas. I will try to scheme out the things. And I will try to reach out to a single meaning. This is one kind of reader. These are known as consumers. हम अगर होली गीता पढ़ते हैं तो हमको उसमें से एक कोई मीनिंग की तरफ हम जाना चाहते हैं जो सर्वमान्य अर्थ होता है, which is widely accepted by all. उस stable meaning की तरफ मैं जाना चाहूँगा if I am a consumer. But if I am a second type of reader who is not reader, who is a writers of the text, who reads for the productive and they are very productive in their reading, So these kind of readers who are very productive in their reading, I'll try to find out not a stable meaning in it, but I will try to find out the meaning out of this text based upon my own personal experiences. It may be different from the stable meaning. It may be different from the widely accepted meaning. Because my experience of life is different, and when I incorporate those experiences when I am reading the text, in my meaning can be different from your meaning when you are reading this text. So I become a writer also at the same time. This is what Roland Barthes tries to say. There are two kinds of readers. One are the consumers who read the work for the stable meaning, and the second kind of readers are not readers, rather they are the writers of the text who are productive in their reading. Now, this is a very important work, The Death of the Author, which was published in 1977, written by Roland Barthes. As maximum concept of this work from work to text has been taken from, influenced by this and incorporated into this. That is why I put this here in the slides. You can see. Now, before I delve into the essay from work to text, let me discuss what exactly the concept intertextuality stands for. If you understand this, what is intertextuality, the rest of the thing is very easy for you to understand. To quote Barth, listen to it very carefully. A text is a multi-dimensional space in which a variety of writings, none of them original, blend and clash. The text is a tissue of quotations. So, my dear friends, this book is whereas three-dimensional, it has height, it has width, and it has breadth. This book is three-dimensional. It is having height, it is having width, and it is having breadth. But a text is not three-dimensional. A work is three-dimensional. This is a work. But a text within it, written into the pages, are not three-dimensional. They are multi-dimensional space, in which a variety of writings. In this book, the concept is taken from literature. In this book, the concept is in this text, that content, the context is taken from philosophy. The content is taken from maybe medical science. The content is taken from maybe anthropology. So it's a variety of writings are there, and none of them are original. Rather, they are blend and clash. This is the text. And the text is a tissue of quotations. So, here is the concept of intertextuality. Finally, when these all texts blended together takes a shape of literary criticism, it turns into a work. It turns into a work which is known as the death of the author. But within this work, there is a blend of many ideas. Of course, they may or may not be original. In it, the texts are taken from a variety of writings. This is what Roland Barthes tried to say. Further, he says the writer can only imitate a gesture that is always anterior, never original. A writer can never write something original. हर एक पब्लिशर यही मांगता है. अब जब भी आप कोई चीज़ भेजते हैं तो वो लिखता है कि आपको एक अंडरटेकिंग देनी पड़ती है कि वॉट एवर आई एम सेंडिंग इज वेरी ओरिजिनल. बट रॉलैंड बार्थ सेज भैया, there is nothing a concept like original, because the ideas which is there in it, it is always influenced by some reading or pre-experiences. It is always borrowed. Nothing is original. My name is Vinay Bharat. Is this an original idea? I am a Hindu. Is this an original idea, or it has been incorporated into me? So this is where Roland Barthes says the writer can only imitate a gesture. I am just imitating a gesture of a Hindu. Oh, Jai Sri Ram, yeah, jo bhi, Christ, Godfather, whatever. So I am just imitating. The writer can only imitate a gesture that is always anterior, never original. His only power is to mix writings. A writer is never never original, but rather he always mixed different kinds of writings together to counter the ones with the others in such a way as never to rest on any one of them. This is what Barthes wrote in the page number 146. I quoted it from there. So the writer is always imitating, as Aristotle has said that art is an imitation. So likewise, Roland Barthes says that writer can only imitate a gesture that is always anterior, never original. His only power is to mix writings, to counter the ones with the others, in such a way as never to rest on any one of them. और उस सारे जगहों से आइडियाज लेने के बाद किसी भी एक आइडिया पर वो फिक्स नहीं करता है, किसी भी एक आइडिया पर रेस्ट नहीं करता है. दिस इज वेयर एक सबको मिला करके एक नया आइडिया कॉन्सेप्ट देता है. सो इंटरटेक्चुअलिटी को हम लोग अभी तक समझ रहे थे. Now Barthes attacked the notions of stable meaning and unquestionable truth. Barthes says that don't try to find out one stable meaning out of a text. जब भी आप कोई पढ़ें, suppose there is a poem written by T.S. Eliot, A Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. उसके बहुत सारे मीनिंग्स हैं. जैसे ड्रामा है Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. He himself says that do not try to find out one single meaning out of my this drama, because I myself do not know much what I have written. So text offers a plurality of meanings. A text offers a plurality of meanings. एक टेक्स्ट है जो इसमें लिखे गए वर्ड्स है, प्लूरलिटी ऑफ मीनिंग है. इसको देखने से आपको एज ए होल जब ये पब्लिश होकर के बुक के शेप में आता है तो आप कह सकते हैं कि हाँ ये एक वर्क है जो कि क्रिटिसिज्म का वर्क है. बट इसके अंदर के टेक्स्ट के मीनिंग्स को आप इस बुक के इस वर्क के अंदर कन्फाइन नहीं कर सकते. एक पन्ना फाड़ के अगर हम फेंक देते हैं तो उसका भी अपना वजूद है. उसमें जो लिखे गए टेक्स्ट हैं वो भी मीनिंग्स को ऑफर करेंगे, विद द प्लूरलिटी ऑफ मीनिंग्स ऑफर करेंगे. एंड अ टेक्स्ट इज वोवन आउट ऑफ न्यूमेरस ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग टेक्स्ट्स. जो भी हम टेक्स्ट लिखते हैं वो खुद किसी कहीं से हवा से निकाल करके नहीं लिखता है. They are woven out of numerous already existing texts. And these texts are not a unified, isolated object that gives a singular meaning, but it is an element open to various interpretations. इसी various interpretations के ऊपर में थ्योरी है रीडर रिस्पॉन्स थ्योरी. क्योंकि जब हम एक वर्क को अपने हाथ में लेते हैं एज ए रीडर, पब्लिश होकर के मेरे हाथ में आ जाता है, आपके हाथ में चला जाता है, तो जितने जितने घरों में ये टेक्स्ट पहुंचता है उतने उतने रीडर्स अब उस टेक्स्ट को पढ़ते हैं और सभी उस टेक्स्ट के एक सिंगल मीनिंग को ड्राइव आउट नहीं करते हैं, रादर उसके अपने अपने इंटरप्रिटेशंस करते हैं. और चूँकि इंटरप्रिटेशंस मेरा इंटरप्रिटेशंस आपकी इंटरप्रिटेशन से डिफरेंट है, इसीलिए इसमें वेरियस इंटरप्रिटेशंस का स्कोप होता है. What is said can be seen by this picture. Text is having plurality of the other words. It is influenced by other texts. It is influenced by other utterances. It is taken from different linguistic and cultural systems. So ये हम लोगों का. Then I would like to quote once again Barthes. The birth of the reader must be at the cost of the death of the author. From this quotation, this book came into existence, the death of the author. अगर एक रीडर को जन्म लेना है, अगर हम चाहते हैं कि एक पाठक जन्म ले और किसी भी लिखे चीज़ का वह खुद से मीनिंग तय करके अपने मस्तिष्क में एक नई किताब को सृजन करे, उसके अर्थों को अपने मायने से ले और एक जेन्युइन रीडर पैदा हो, तो ऑथर को मरना ही पड़ता है. ऑथर को आकर के बताने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. इट इज़ नॉट रिक्वायर्ड कि मैं जो लिखा हूँ ट्राई टू टेक दिस वर्ड इनटू दिस फ्रेमवर्क. नो, देयर इज़ नो नीड एट ऑल. ऑथर इज़ नॉट हियर टू डिक्टेट द रीडर, रादर रीडर इज़ फ्री टू टेक इट्स मीनिंग. उसको जो अपना समझ में आएगा वो लेगा. और इसके लिए दैट इज़ वाई एक रीडर का बर्थ हो एक ऑथर का डेथ होना ज़रूरी हो जाता है। डेथ होने का मतलब है ऑथर का पैसिव हो जाना बहुत ज़रूरी होता है, ऑथर को ऑब्जेक्टिव हो जाना बहुत ज़रूरी हो जाता है, ऑथर का इंडिफरेंट हो जाना बहुत ज़रूरी होता है। उसको ही शुड नॉट मेडल विद द रीडर्स इंटरप्रिटेशंस, अदरवाइज a reader can never be productive. He will be always otherwise he will be always a consumer. Before I delve into this, I would like to talk about some introduction of this essay from work to text. Now here we are. अब इतने सारी चीज़ों को जानने के बाद में, इंटरटेक्चुअलिटी को जानने के बाद में, और ये सारे कॉन्सेप्ट्स को जानने के बाद में, अब हम तैयार हैं कि हम फ्रॉम वर्क टू टेक्स्ट essay में इंटर करते हैं. So we are ready to enter. This work to text was written in the year 1977, as I had told, just 3 years after he died in 1980. And this essay is completely based upon post-structuralist thinking, and this essay is about author, writing, reading, photography, film, and the phenomenon of sound and image. And from work to text is about a difference between work and text. If you will read this essay, you will definitely come to know at least 7 differences how a work, this book, is different from the text written within it. So I would rather say that this essay from work to text should otherwise be known as the difference between work and text. This should be given another title. तुम लोग को इससे आसानी होता समझने में. फ्रॉम वर्क टू टेक्स्ट को हम ये भी कह सकते हैं कि ये डिफरेंस बिटवीन वर्क एंड टेक्स्ट को बताने के लिए ऐसे लिखा गया है, एंड इसका टाइटल ये हो सकता था. नाउ रोलैंड बार्थ इन दिस एसे distinguishes the work and the text, denies the authority of the author, and gives the reader the right to reproduce. He gives the right to reproduce to in a reader's hand. वो रीडर को बोलता है कि आप ऑथर ने किताब लिख करके छोड़ दिया, अब ऑथर अब बाय अब बैठिए, आपका किताब पब्लिश हो गया, अब आप खुश हो जाइए. अब वो किताब पाठकों के हाथ में आ रही है. नाउ दैट बुक इज कमिंग इन टू द हैंड्स ऑफ रीडर्स. Now let them read and let them reproduce it. So he affirms the text is a dynamic, open system and tries to construct a text utopia. और text utopia जब हम प्लेजर का डिस्कशन अभी इसमें हम करेंगे तो उस पर फिर से वापस आएंगे. The post-structuralism theory of Barthes and other French philosophers as Foucault, Derrida, Lacan and Lyotard was contributed to art history from 1970s. Now, term the text which had been used in this had replaced work in common usage and fashionable, and Barthes had his own theory of the word or concept text, and this idea are based on including Derrida, Lacan, and Tristiva, as said earlier. Now, in this essay, the contrasts between a work and a text defined by 7 propositions. What are the differences between work and a text is defined by 7 propositions. So what are those 7 propositions? First, it is by method. We can differentiate a work from a text. From genre. Third, the science. Fourth, plurality. Fifth, filiations or otherwise known as associations, and sixth, reading, and seventh, pleasure. On these 7 grounds, method, genre, science, plurality, filiations, reading, and pleasure, a work is different from a text. How is it? Let me delve into it. Now, first, I would like to refer to the number 1 point, method. How, on the basis of on this preposition method, work is different from text. Let us say it. According to Roland Barthes, a work is a concrete, tangible object. See, this is a work, and I can touch this work. This is a concrete thing or this is a tangible object. But a text in it is a methodological field. A text in it is a methodological field. I cannot touch them. Second, it is something that is definite and complete. This work is something which is definite and complete, as I can say that this work has been published from the publication house Routledge, and this is a complete in itself. But the text composition or the meaning, the reader takes from the work. So this is where the text is the meaning is there in the hands of the reader and the text from the work. ये कंप्लीट इसका मीनिंग ये टेक्स्ट होता है वो कहीं जा कर के कंप्लीट नहीं होता है, वो हमेशा कंटिन्यूटी में रहता है, कंटिन्यूअम में रहता है. इट ऑलवेज रिमेन्स इन अ कंटिन्यूअम. So the text is not never complete. The work can be complete when a text is cut off from somewhere and put down like this into a shape of a book. It works get completed, but the text keeps running on. It never stops. That is why the text can never remain complete. जो इसके लिखे हुए शब्द हैं, जो लिखे हुए हर्फ हैं, वो कभी भी कंप्लीट नहीं होते. उसकी जितनी बार आप पढ़ेंगे, जितनी बार आप पढ़ेंगे उतनी बार अलग अलग मीनिंग्स आपके पास आते जाएंगे. 1000 टाइम्स पढ़ेंगे 1000 टाइप्स के मीनिंग्स आपके सामने आएंगे. दैट इज़ वाई टेक्स्ट कभी भी कंप्लीट नहीं होता है. थर्ड, अकॉर्डिंग टू रोलैंड बार्थ, it is a fragment of substance occupying a part of the space of books. So जो भी टेक्स्ट है वो सारे फ्रैगमेंट बन के स्पेस लेते हैं और बुक का शेप ले लेते हैं. A work has a physical limit, इसका एक physical limit है. And C, a particular edition of Shakespeare's Hamlet should be called a work. जैसे जो एडिशन निकला कोई हेमलेट का, तो उसको हम लोग बोल दिए दिस इज़ अ वर्क. बट एट द सेम टाइम इफ यू से पैरेलली, टेक्स्ट इज नॉट अ डेफिनेट ऑब्जेक्ट. इट कैन ट्रैवल अक्रॉस मेनी वर्क्स. एक ही शब्द आपके रोलैंड बार्थ में भी इस्तेमाल किए गए हैं. द सेम वर्ड और सेम टेक्स्ट कैन बी यूज. अभी टेक्स्ट को वर्ड समझ लो आप लोग. तो सेम वर्ड इस्तेमाल किए गए हैं सपोज रेमन जैकब्सन की बुक्स में. तो इट कैन ट्रैवल अक्रॉस मेनी वर्क्स. And B, the text is not have any kind of limits. A work has a physical limit, but the text is having no limits. And the theme of revenge in Hamlet is a text. जैसे particular edition of a Shakespeare's book is Hamlet, is a work, but Hamlet's का जो theme है, theme of revenge, that is a text because theme of revenge अपने आप में different है. वो बहुत सारे other dramas में अदर ड्रामेटिस्ट के द्वारा उस थीम को इस्तेमाल किया गया है. दैट इज़ वाई इट इज़ नॉट लिमिटेड, राइट. सो इवन शेक्सपियर हिमसेल्फ इज ए टेक्स्ट. शेक्सपियर इन हिमसेल्फ इज ए टेक्स्ट. इज नॉट वर्क बिकॉज शेक्सपियर के अलग अलग मायने हैं सबके पास. तो द वर्क कैन बी हेल्ड इन द हैंड, एज यू कैन से. दिस इज अनदर डिफरेंस. द वर्क, तो दीज फ्रॉम दीज मेथड्स we know that a text is different from a work and a work is different from a text, because work can be held in the hand. And further, the text is not held in the hand, but text is held in language. It only exists in the movement of a language. जो शब्द जो है, हर्फ जो है, वो हाथ में पकड़ में आने वाली चीज़ नहीं है जैसे वर्क हमारे हाथ में आ गया, बल्कि जो टेक्स्ट है दैट इज़ हेल्ड इन लैंग्वेज. किसी भाषा में वो रखे जाते हैं, अरेंज किए जाते हैं, रीअरेंज किए जाते हैं. इट ओनली एग्जिस्ट इन द मोमेंट ऑफ ए लैंग्वेज. और जैसे जैसे लैंग्वेज मूव करता है वैसे वैसे टेक्स्ट भी मूव करता है. तो बार्थ रिगार्ड्स द टेक्स्ट एज ए कॉन्स्टेंट वीविंग प्रोसेस. द टेक्स्ट में जैसे वीविंग, दिस इज अ काइंड ऑफ वीविंग प्रोसेस. द टेक्स्ट इज ए टिश्यू, है ना. So this is where. Now the second criteria, the second proposition on which we can differentiate between work and text is the genre. So As I can we can see here that according to Roland Barthes, the work has a rigid classifications. A work is always set within hierarchy or classification, or we can say in a layman term, we can say that work is always set within a genre. तो इसका एक हायरार्की होता है, इसका एक जॉनर होता है किसी भी वर्क का. अब जैसे दिस बुक, व्हेन आई कीप कीपिंग होल्डिंग दिस बुक इन माय हैंड, आई नो दैट दिस बुक हैज a hierarchy. It is set within a hierarchy. It is not set without a hierarchy. It is set within a hierarchy, it is set within a classification, and with that experience, I know that this work is having a genre which falls under the category of criticism. So this work is a work of a genre known as criticism. We always recognize works within an attribution of genres. But text cannot be pigeonholed into a genre or placed in a hierarchical system. टेक्स्ट का कोई जॉनर नहीं होता है, टेक्स्ट फ्री होता है. सेम वर्ड्स अगर यहाँ पर आ रहे हैं रोलैंड बार्थ के रूप में तो वो क्रिटिसिज्म का हिस्सा है, और सेम वर्ड्स अगर किसी और जगह पर इस्तेमाल दूसरे कॉनोटेशंस में और दूसरे रेफरेंस में किए जा रहे हैं तो उसका जॉनर में भी ड्रामा हो सकता है, में भी पोएम हो सकता है. सो टेक्स्ट का कोई जॉनर नहीं होता है. But text is not confined within limits of a genre. It actually supports the old classifications. Now the next, like Hamlet, for example, is a revenge tragedy. Da Vinci Code is a methodological thriller. Animal Farm is a satire and so on. So the work जो है like Hamlet का मालूम होता है कि एक वो revenge tragedy है. Da Vinci Code का मालूम होता है कि वो methodological thriller है. Like with Animal Farm, we know that it is a satire, but we, as a text, when we take the text of a satire, we know that the text used in Animal Farm is different from that of Swift's Modest Proposal. So Animal Farm का जो satire है, वो different satire है, mode उसका अलग है Modest Proposal से. तो टेक्स्ट जो है दैट पुशेस द लिमिट्स ऑफ रीडेबिलिटी एंड रेशनैलिटी. टेक्स्ट को वी कैन नॉट क्लासीफाई इनटू अ जॉनर, इट इज़ फ्री. सो जॉनर की बेसिस पे हम लोगों ने देखा हाउ वर्क इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम अ टेक्स्ट. वर्क का एक जॉनर होता है, टेक्स्ट का कोई जॉनर नहीं होता है, कोई जॉनर नहीं होता है टेक्स्ट का. नाउ थर्ड प्रपोजिशन जिस पर हम आएंगे उसके पहले लेट अस अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज साइन. सो अ साइन इज द बेसिक यूनिट ऑफ अ लैंग्वेज. एज फॉर एग्जांपल अ वर्ड is the basic unit of a language, and it has two parts. One is the signifier, which is the material form or the concept, and second one is the signified, which is the mental form or the concept evoked by the signifier. So signifier के रूप में may be a sound of it. Suppose I hear this sound, Wah! I know that this sound is signifier of signified, that is a sound of a barking of a dog. So sound and image of the sign जो होता है that is known as signifier, and the signified होता है that is mental form होता है. तो signifier है that is the material form. Material form is the concept, material concept. That's as for example I did. So this is like suppose elephant. So these are the signifiers. These are signifying, the sounds are signifying an image, and that image has some word or mental formations. What they are exactly signifying, what exactly they are signifying is known as the signified. So उसमें हम लोग goats को या dogs को हम लोग लेते हैं, इसको और अच्छे से समझते हैं. Sign का concept we can understand that as we can see that the signifier is the letter DOG. This DOG is the signifier, and what does this DOG signify? A dog as a picture, you can say, that is signified, and both of these two things, signifier and signified, combined together makes a sign. So this is the concept of sign. Now on this concept of sign, the third proposition of Roland Barthes is that from signs we can differentiate between a work and text. According to Roland Barthes, work is complete and comprehensive. This is work is completely this is science. Through this we know that this work is complete and comprehensive, whereas text is incomplete, metonymic. As for example, the White House in itself resembles a house of US president. So text is completely symbolic. नाउ वर्क हैज़ ए क्लोजर. वर्क अगर कहीं से शुरू होता है तो वर्क कहीं पर जा करके ख़त्म भी होता है. इट हैज़ कंप्लीट क्लोजर, वेयर एज साइंस द लेटर्स इन इट आर ओपन इन दैट द नेवर एंड्स. नाउ दिस वर्क इज ए सिग्निफाइड. This is when I say book or literary text, so this comes into this shape. Since it comes into this shape, this is called signified. So this work is a signified, whereas the texts are not the signified, they are the signifiers. Their meaning becomes interrupted, overlapping ideas and associations. As for example, the dagger in Macbeth, which comes in the scene. If you have gone through the tragedy written by William Shakespeare, there is a dagger scene which comes hanging in the air. So that dagger in Macbeth may be a symbol of danger. It can be a symbol of death. It can be a symbol of sin. It can be a symbol of fear. So a text in itself is not signified. Rather, it is a signifier. Now, text can be interpreted literally. टेक्स्ट को हम लोग लिटरली इंटरप्रेट कर सकते हैं. वी कैन इंटरप्रेट इट लिटरली. whereas science makes it whereas text makes it signifiers arbitrary. उसमें जो साइंस है that is arbitrary. The meaning is arbitrary. It is free. There is no perfect and final interpretation. To quote, signifier must not be conceived of as the first stage of meaning. It is rather a deferred action. जैसे ही मैंने एक एग्जाम्पल में लास्ट वीडियो में समझाया था, सपोज आई से हॉट, तो हॉट का जो मीनिंग है जैसे ही हम पकड़ना चाहते हैं थोड़ा सा उसके मीनिंग आगे बढ़ जाता है. जैसे हम ट्रॉपिक ऑफ कैंसर के लोग हैं, मे बी हॉट का मतलब मेरे लिए 20 डिग्री सेल्सियस होगा एटमॉस्फेरिक टेम्परेचर. आपके पाकिस्तान लाहौर में भी हॉट 35 डिग्री होगा. तो हॉट का मीनिंग को हम जैसे ही 20 डिग्री सेल्सियस के आसपास कैच करना चाह रहे हैं, इट मीनिंग बिकम्स डेफर्ड, थोड़ा सा डिलेड हो जाता है, आगे बढ़ जाता है. हम उसके एग्जैक्ट मीनिंग तक पहुंच नहीं पाते हैं. पहुंचने की कोशिश करते हैं, पहुंच नहीं पाते हैं. जैसे ही हम पहुंचना चाहते हैं 20 डिग्री सेल्सियस से हॉट का मीनिंग 22 डिग्री सेल्सियस पे घसक जाता है. किसी के लिए 25 डिग्री सेल्सियस हॉट है, किसी के लिए 35 डिग्री सेल्सियस हॉट है, किसी के लिए 55 डिग्री सेल्सियस हॉट है. तो जैसे ही हॉट को हम डिफाइन करना चाहते हैं, उसके मीनिंग को हम अपने पास लाना चाहते हैं, इसका मीनिंग थोड़ा सा ऑडियंस टू ऑडियंस डिफर करके चला जाता है. इसीलिए एट अ हायर लेवल वी शुड थ्रो फॉर द डिक्शनरीज, बिकॉज डिक्शनरीज ऑलवेज ट्राई टू गिव अस अ डेफिनेट मीनिंग, a meaning associated by by the conventions. But in the philosophical higher level, like as if we are the student of Roland Barthes, we will say that dictionary is useless because dictionary is not giving us a definite meaning, but rather it is giving us a deferred meaning. जैसे हम एक मीनिंग को पकड़ना चाहते हैं, मीनिंग थोड़ा सा और बदल जाता है. So हॉट का क्या मतलब है? That is the simplest example you always give. Now, work can be categorized. Work can always be categorized. As for example, this is a work, it can always be categorized. This is categorized as a work of a literary criticism. Likewise, there are the other religious texts. Suppose Gita is in my hand. So this Gita is the religious text, religious work. But a text can never be categorized. Text का कोई category नहीं. Depends where it is being used and why is it being used, in which genre it is going to fall. It all depends up to that. Now, the fourth propositions on which we can differentiate a text or work is the plurality. In work, there is no plurality. Suppose I keep this in front of you. This work has one single meaning or impression before you. We all know that this is a book and this is a literary book, so there is no plurality in it. But a text in it has the plurality of meaning. It is irreducible. We cannot reduce it. It is irreducible. And word is explanatory, whereas text is having a multitude of associations. So, traditional theory basis on the work is linked to a Newtonian closed system, which underpinned the myth of the author, while the theory of the text is Einsteinian open system. It is not Newtonian, it is Einsteinian open system, which is applicable to intertextual production and at the same time embodies the principle of interdisciplinarity. सारे टेक्स्ट इंटरडिसिप्लिन जुड़े हुए हैं, एक ही डिसिप्लिन का कोई वर्ड हम लोग के पूरी ज़िंदगी में नहीं है, सारे शब्द एक दूसरे डिसिप्लिन से जुड़े हुए हैं. So a text is having a plurality. It is a woven fabric that comes with known codes that are assembled differently and may be woven with citations, references, and echoes. So these are the different. That is why it is called intertextual. सो टेक्स्ट के बहुत सारे अलग अलग सोर्सेस से, एज आई हैव ऑलरेडी एक्सप्लेन्ड इट, बहुत सारे सोर्सेस से लिए गए हैं, लिए जाते हैं, इंटरडिपेंडेंट हैं. नो, नथिंग इज ओरिजिनल. वी ऑलवेज सपोज इफ आई एम राइटिंग समथिंग एंड आई थिंक आई एम राइटिंग ओरिजिनल. नो, वट एवर आई एम राइटिंग, द टेक्स्ट विच आई एम यूजिंग is of course not my own but taken from different field of areas, right? Now, fifth difference that is posed by Roland Barthes is the proposition of filiations. We say that this can also be known as the association with author or the genre. So work is defined by a process of association or authorship, whereas a text is not limited and confined to a genre. A text को कोई association से मतलब नहीं है. Suppose मैं एक किसी बुक में लव इज गॉड लिखा हुआ है, सपोज हॉली बाइबल में लव इज गॉड लिखा हुआ है, बट यही लव ऑफ गॉड बाइबल के टेक्स्ट से फाड़ करके नीचे गिर जाए और किसी को मिल जाए लव इज गॉड. सपोज मैं यहाँ पर लिखता हूँ लव इज गॉड, ये बाइबल का कोटेशन है, बट ये चीज़ अगर बाइबल के किताब में रहे तो इसका कोई मीनिंग और है, लेकिन अगर ये नीचे गिर गया तो ये किसका कोई जॉनर है. मैं इसको अपने जीवन के एक्सपीरियंसेस से समझूंगा व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ लव इज गॉड. या किताब में चला गया, अगर ये बाइबल में वो चला गया अंदर, अगर ये बाइबल में चला गया वैसे इसको, तब हम इसको रेफरेंस में पढ़ रहे हैं तो इस लव इज गॉड का कुछ और मीनिंग होगा. बट यही लव इज गॉड सेम लिखा हुआ अगर बाहर आकर के गिरता है तो दैट इज नॉट कन्फाइंड टू अ जॉनर. नाउ व्हाट इज एफिलिएटेड and identified with its author and the reader's knowledge of the author. ये work है, this work is written by Roland Barthes, published by Routledge, so this is identified by its author, ये work, but reader does not expect it to fit into a category of type. लेकिन जो इसके टेक्स्ट के जो है वो उसको किसी कैटेगरी और टाइप में हम लोग नहीं फिक्स कर सकते हैं. So the birth of the reader must be at the cost of the death of the author, यही बोला जाता है. The text stems from infinite signifiers, whereas the author is no longer the subject in the beginning. The reader was endued a prominence authority by Barthes. It becomes a fabricator other than the consumer. So text के मामले में जो फैलिएशंस है वहाँ पर ऑथर से एसोसिएशन ख़त्म कर दिया जाता है और सारा एसोसिएशन रीडर से जोड़ने के बाद रीडर्स को प्रोमिनेंस दिया जाता है. एंड रीडर्स वाज इंड्यूस्ड एज अ प्रोमिनेंस ऑथोरिटी बाय बार्थ्स एंड रीडर बिकम्स द फैब्रिकेटर. रीडर ही रचनाकार, फैब्रिकेट करने वाला बन जाता है और वो कंज्यूमर नहीं रह जाता. सो दिस इज़ द डिफरेंस. नाउ we can see that the previous works may become the key to its understanding. इस काम को समझना है तो I'll have to understand the previous work. But for the text, part of greed, it is a part of a greed and free to be interpreted beyond the author's signification. इसको किसी भी पिछले previous work से कोई मतलब नहीं है. Text is free in itself. एक पन्ना फाड़ के फेंको, उसके बावजूद उस टेक्स्ट का जो उसके ऊपर टेक्स्ट उसका मीनिंग फ्री है, जिसके हाथ में जाएगा उसको उस तरीके से लेने के लिए आज़ाद रहता है। बट अगर हम वर्क आपके हाथ में देते हैं तो इस वर्क का एक ही मीनिंग होता है कि वो किस जॉनर से है, किसने लिखा, किस लिए लिखा, उसका पर्पस क्या है। दैट्स ऑल। नाउ रीडिंग, sixth proposition on which Roland Barthes has tried to differentiate between work and text is reading. So why I read a work, it becomes a commodity for me. It becomes an object of consumption for me. Whereas when I read a text, it is an interactive reading. When I read a text, it narrows the distance between reading and writing. क्योंकि जब मैं पढ़ रहा होता हूँ किसी टेक्स्ट को, तो साथ ही साथ उसको अपने मन पर हम लिखे भी रहे होते हैं, क्योंकि अपने अनुभव को मैं जब उसमें डालता हूँ, when I pour down my experiences into it, I become a new author of the same book. I become a writer in myself. I become productive on itself. So this is the difference. Further, we can see that while I read, the reader tends to be passive and is expected to be fed and entertained. When I read a work, here I suppose I am a consumer and reading it, so I tend to become passive and I'm expected to be fed and entertained by the author, while I'm reading as a text, reading not a work, but reading a text. This is a kind of play where I'm playing with different kind of interpretations. I become active, I become productive. So text is a kind of play, activity, production, practice. And here when I'm reading text, a reader questions and thinks about the writing instead of taking it for granted. हम इसको for granted नहीं लेंगे। टेक्स्ट को जब हम पढ़ेंगे तो हम इसकी मीनिंग्स को पूछना चाहेंगे कि क्या लिखा हुआ है, what is the meaning of this. So to read the work is a simple consumption, whereas reading is not a consumption. Reading is rewriting the text. Text, well, I take it as a text, then I am rewriting it. So if readers passively consumes words, they will tire from reading. So to be bored means that one cannot produce the text, open it out, set it going. So here, if I am reading a work, I am a consumer. If I am reading a text, I am a writer. I am a writer-reader. I am a writer-reader, rather call it that. Right. So this is good. The last point on which Roland Barthes is focused, the seventh proposition from which we can differentiate a work from a text is, the work brings a conjunctive pleasure by offering certain meaning. The pleasure is concerning discovery. So जैसे ही हम एक कंजम्पटिव प्लेजर में आते हैं तो कुछ मीनिंग हमारे हाथ में लगता है जब हम एज ए वर्क इसको हम पढ़ते हैं. So some meanings come into my hands, but as a pleasure when I'm taking the pleasure in it. But while I'm taking it as a text, when I'm reading a text, so to read the text means it arouses a jouissance. It is arousing an intellectual pleasure of participating in the weaving process. And I become so creative. मुझको उसके अलग अलग मीनिंग. If Lord Buddha has said in one work, love everyone. Suppose it is written in a Buddha's text, in a Zen book it is written. So if I am reading it from as a consumer, because consumer reads the works, whereas writer reader read a text. So when I am reading the work, I have a single meaning in it. Love is God. Suppose love is God. But when I'm reading as a writer reader, when I'm reading a text, so I can take it. Is God. Oh, love is God. Oh, love is God. I can take into that. So here is the difference between reading a work and reading a text. When I'm reading a text, I'm a consumer, I will go for a definite meaning, what Lord Buddha has originally tried to say. Whereas when I'm reading a text, I can have a multi interpretation of the same words spoken by Lord Buddha. So when I'm reading a text, I am not caring about who has written it. I am not caring about that Lord Buddha has written it. I have thrown him out from the context. I am taking the words only and taking the pleasure of rereading and rewriting it in my own mind. मैं उसके अपने अपने मीनिंग पर उसको ले रहा हूँ. मैंने बुद्धा को वहाँ से निकाल करके फेंक दिया, क्योंकि अब हमारे पास वर्क की तरह किसी चीज़ को हम नहीं पढ़ रहे हैं, हम टेक्स्ट की तरह उसको पढ़ रहे हैं. तो टेक्स्ट को पढ़ने में हम आज़ाद हैं, टेक्स्ट को पढ़ने में हम क्रिएटिव होने के लिए आज़ाद हैं. हमको कोई मतलब नहीं होता है कि इसको किसने लिखा है. सो द रीडर कैन नॉट रीराइट दोज टेक्स्ट, वेर एज a reader of a text, a reader of a work cannot rewrite the text, okay? But a reader of the text, that is where there are no feeling separation between the reader and the writer. वहाँ पर एज ए टेक्स्ट अगर हम उसको पढ़ रहे हैं तो हम उसको रिराइट भी कर रहे हैं, उसको अपने ढंग से लिख भी रहे हैं, अपने दिमाग में जो लिखा है उसको इतर जा करके उसके मीनिंग को, उसकी अलग अलहदा कोई मीनिंग हम ट्राई उसको ले रहे हैं. सो तो हमको प्लेजर का जो लेवल है मेरा, दैट इज़ ऑल्सो डिफरेंट. वाइल आई एम रीडिंग अ वर्क, माई प्लेजर इंटेंसिटी इज लोअर. व्हेन आई एम रीडिंग अ टेक्स्ट, माई प्लेजर इंटेंसिटी इज हायर. Now there is a distance is created between the reader and the work. When I am reading it as a reader of a work, then there is a difference, there is a kind of distance is there between a reader and a work. But when I am reading something as a text, so it transcends any language or social barriers, और मेरे ऊपर कोई बैरियर लाइबिलिटीज़ नहीं होती है, कोई सोशल लाइबिलिटीज़ नहीं होती है. So I'm free to take it as the way I want to take it. This is a basic difference. So my dear friends, before I say goodbye, and this was that much, the 7 points which is mentioned there. Perhaps you have gone through the slides and you can write out the points. But for making it more clear to you, I would like to discuss in short what was the development of a reader, of a work and a text. कैसे different phases में they have traveled themselves. So we can see that in authorism during this 1920s, the author was a source of meaning. जो author बोलते थे, author से ही हम पूछते थे कि जो आपने लिखा है उसका मीनिंग क्या होगा. We were asking him, he was the final authority about it. But during neo-criticism, during 1920s and 60s, the text has inherent meaning. वहाँ तक तो टेक्स्ट के पास एक inherent meaning था. When I was reading it, during the era of neo-criticism, when I was reading, there was inherent meaning. But structuralism के समय में text has वहाँ उस समय भी structuralism के समय में भी text has inherent meaning. जो टेक्स्ट लिखा जाता था उसका सिंगल मीनिंग होता था, वो डिक्शनरी से हम लोग देख के समझ जाते थे. सेमियोटिक्स के टाइम में इनहेरेंट मीनिंग एंड टेक्स्ट मोर वाइडली डिफाइंड, तब वहाँ पर टेक्स्ट को वी डिफाइन इट मोर वाइडली. वेयर एज इन द पोस्ट स्ट्रक्चरलिज्म, मीनिंग बिकम अनस्टेबल, टेक्स्ट जो हो दैट बिकम इनटू डिकंस्ट्रक्टिव टेक्स्ट, एंड कॉन्टेक्स्ट एंड द रीडर की उसका वो हो गया. नाउ टेक्स्ट का जो मीनिंग है दैट बिकम वेरी मच अनस्टेबल, एज वी सॉ इन दिस essay also from Work to Text. We find that after 1980s, after 1977, readers become free to interpret it into based upon their experiences. Now, during authorism, the author's life and times were also very much important. Author kab, what was the background of the author? As for example, say, if I have to understand the poems written by John Keats, I have to understand the author's life and times. Then we come to know that since John Keats was suffering from tuberculosis, so in that, and he was in love with Fanny Brown. So knowing this background, we could have come to know the real meaning of the poem written by him. But during new criticism, interpretation by experts and academics was very important. Author ने जो लिखा उसका इंटरप्रिटेशन जो एक्सपर्ट्स जो देते थे, क्रिटिक्स जो देते थे, एकेडमिक्स जो देती थी, उससे we try to get out the meaning. While in the period of structuralism, the relationship between elements in text became very much important. What is the relation of a poem with that of the author or the text which is written into it? That becomes very important. In semiotics, myth and ideology also incorporated to understand the meaning of a work. Whereas in the post-structuralism, we see that audience research has become very important. The reader's research about a particular thing has become very important to understand its meaning, and they are free to take it on their own way. And they try to go for the discourse analysis. This is where the difference is. So, my dear friends, seeing these 5 different phases, we could come to know this long journey of a reader from becoming a productive reader or a writer reader. This was the journey. Earlier we were only reader, now we have become a writer reader. So this is a kind of oxymoron, but this is the fact. Now, before I leave this lecture, I'll be posing before you and I'll ask you to check yourself. Are you reading work or are you reading a text? Suppose the next time when you pick up something to read, notice whether you are consuming and taking the written word for granted, or you are making associations and interacting with the text. And second question I'll pose before you, are you treating those written words as if they are etched in stone with only one meaning, or as a layered tapestry that echoes several possibilities? जब भी आप किसी भी टेक्स्ट को पढ़ें, आप इस लेक्चर के बाद में तो इस देखने की कोशिश करें कि आप उसे एज ए आप एक वर्क के रीडर हैं या आप टेक्स्ट के रीडर हैं. अगर वर्क के रीडर हैं तो जो मैंने ये समझा दिया आपको, जो इंटरप्रिटेशन मेरे एंड से चला गया एक्सपर्ट्स और एकेडमिक्स के थ्रू, आप उसको ही समझ पाएंगे, या जब आप इस केस को पढ़ेंगे तो आपका अपना भी कोई नया मीनिंग निकल के आ रहा है, इसको देखना लाजिम होगा. तभी मालूम चलेगा कि आप वर्क को पढ़ रहे हैं या टेक्स्ट को पढ़ रहे हैं. अगर वर्क को पढ़ रहे हैं तो डेफिनेट मीनिंग की तरफ आप जाएंगे और बहुत ज़्यादा प्रोडक्टिव नहीं होंगे. और अगर टेक्स्ट को आप पढ़ रहे होंगे तो आपके पास इसके पन्ना दर पन्ना बहुत सारे मायने आपके लिए अलग तरीके से खुलेंगे. थैंक यू वेरी मच माय डियर फ्रेंड्स. थैंक्स अ लॉट. जोहार.